Welcome you, Lawrence Lanoff, to the eLive Freedom webinar. Now, Lawrence, just for you guys that are watching, is an award-winning filmmaker. He's a successful entrepreneur, and he has been investing in cryptocurrency since 2011. He's directed and produced about 11 different feature films, and he's a best-selling author, world-renowned life coach, and was featured expert in Neil Strauss's New York bestseller, The Truth. And you spent the last 15 years developing a theory of consciousness that is an amalgamation of neuroscience and meditation. And this unique perspective, when applied to machine learning and his own experience as cryptocurrency investor, provides, he's working with a company called TokenAI, which gives people really valuable insights that people can get involved in the cryptocurrency with. And, me personally, I actually read Lawrence's book. It was A Course in Freedom. And then I remember I had actually reached out and contacted you. And The Course in Freedom really stuck out in my mind because it talked all about demything and how we all have these programs and stories that have been programmed into our mind, and we think that that's a reality, and we believe in these false things that are projected on us. And what I'm coming to learn right now with just the whole external world is that we're being guided and manipulated without even knowing it because of imposing these thoughts into our mind and directing where our mind is going based on the external world. When I look right now at the external world, whether you call politics or news or all the minutia that's out there, I think that it's meant to distract us from our gifts inside. Because if we're distracted by a whole bunch of stuff, we'll never see what we have within us. And that's one of the things that I'm coming to learn, that you can choose to either focus on our internal superhuman powers that we all have, where it's an unlimited possibility, or we could become a victim and look at the outside world, which has nothing to do with us being a creator and everything with us disconnecting from our heart, our spirit, and our soul. So I really appreciate you coming on. And I know we met like a couple years ago. I met you in Santa Monica, and you had a heart-to-heart with me, and we talked a little bit about the book, and you gave me some advice. And the one thing that I always recommend for people that are out there in the world right now is to ask why, or question or doubt. I mean, if we go back to like the Buddha and we think about not just believing what's in front of you, but really seeking to find the answer that connects you with your higher truth. I think that's one of the things that your book talks about, is basically getting rid of all this stuff that really doesn't serve you. And I've talked to many spiritual people all over the world, and one of their key truths is it's not about what you learn to become enlightened, but what about what you unlearn. And so I'm really excited to hear about what you're up to with TokenAI. As we talk about, on this platform, we've been talking to a lot of healers and light workers and energy workers, people that are trying to raise people's energy level, their consciousness, to get them connected to their inner self. And as we look at the external systems of the world that keep us going around like a gerbil, chasing our tail for more and more and more and more, never arriving anywhere. I think that what you're doing right now is really key when it comes to creating your own future and your own destiny. So I'm going to hand it over to you to tell me like what you've been up to, and it's amazing to connect with you. And I really appreciate you taking out time. I know, you've been beyond and back with many different experiences, platforms, expertise.
Yeah.
And thanks for connecting today.
Well, it's my pleasure. I mean, I think, honestly, it's so important to share with people just these beautiful spaces that we're exploring. There's a lot, the world is changing. It's changing very rapidly. As we were talking about, the volume of information out there, the things that are out there, there's just so much stuff, like things that like our grandparents, just they were, pretty much everybody was living in a different world. And now you basically have the universe at your fingertips. You've got, on a lot of noise. There's a lot of distraction, and of course, a lot of static. I mean, in a way, you know, we're being faced with a challenge. Humans are being faced with a challenge, and that challenge is, how do we find our way in a world that is very, 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 very noisy and complicated? And that is, you know, that's a challenge that I think we're just not really prepared for, to be honest. So, you know, so hence, you know, that like I humbly begin this conversation with saying, like, hey, you know, we have a lot of challenges up ahead of us, and a lot of it is trying to keep us on a hamster wheel that's nowhere. So that's the dilemma. You know, that's the dilemma. It's like everything's sort of pretending to be the answer. I don't know how much actually is, but that's, you know, that's part of learning how to see things as stories and mythologies to kind of help cut through the belief systems. So,
yeah, because a lot of people believe what they see.
yeah, and a lot of people see what they believe.
Right.
You know, it's both are true, and it's complicated as a result. You know, I mean, there are people who look out into the world, and because that's the way our brain works, you know, that's the way cognitive biases work. It's like you look out there and you see what you expect to see, and you filter everything else. And we see this all the time. So part of why I got into you know, cryptocurrency in general, and why it's such an exciting space, and why I'm combining, you know, our team is combining artificial intelligence with blockchain in essence, in the simplest form, is because I think in the deep thinking about the mind and intelligence, it's really interesting. We have to bring brain power to think about thinking, because that thinking is going to be guiding our future as, you know, as computers become more powerful, as they're networked together. It really, you know, in a fairly short period of time, is going to be beyond, I mean, I would argue it probably already is, speed-wise, beyond most people's capacity. So what happens when, you know, sort of the general computing power exceeds your capacity for the human mind, and then those things are networked together? We had better be thinking about these things. And that's part of what I want to do. Now, the low-lying fruit, the easy things, are just having a machine learning, you know, an autonomous thing think about trading, in this case, cryptocurrencies. It's a very liquid, fast platform. And it's easy to look at that platform and think about thinking. It's easy to say, you know, oh wow, these markets are doing these ups and these downs. What is that? What's driving that? How is it being driven? Because it's being driven by an intangible, which is human emotions and sentiment and fear, which currently there's no machine that has those kinds of things. So this becomes like, you know, Spock trying to understand why people are afraid of, you know, China, for example, for the 80th time shutting down cryptocurrency exchanges. You know, so this is why it's so exciting. I mean, literally the entire universe is open to us right now.
Yep.
Right, just possibility. So,
because I know your book's Course in Freedom, and as we're talking about freedom here, and people tapping into having a life that they create, because it seems like a lot of people are controlled by their circumstances and the systems and the economy. How could cryptocurrency create an environment where somebody could create their life and have freedom? Maybe you can give some examples of that, because I know that's one of the big reasons why a lot of people are getting involved.
Well, actually, I mean, to be honest with you, Hugh, I think the main reason people are getting involved is to try to make money, like, which is fine. Like, that's an entry ramp for people. I think the things we're talking about are much, for lack of a better word, kind of a much higher concept, if you will, right? Which is just kind of like a,
Right.
but you know, it's fine. Whatever the on ramp is for people, that's fine. Now, what I think is those people who are bit by this bug and they're like, this is exciting. That's awesome, but what that's doing is it's hiding the technology that's underlaying this revolution. So I think that, you know, what's possible is that we're witnessing the birth of a cryptocurrency right before our eyes. So if you're witnessing a birth of a cryptocurrency, you're witnessing it, you're seeing it, it's happening right in front of you. How is this happening? How are we investing belief and trust in it, right? Because right now we're in a struggle of people who believe in it and people who don't. If you saw, like, Jamie Dimon came out and was like, you know, I don't believe in it. And then a whole bunch of people were like, we believe in it. And so there's this fight, you know, sort of traditionalists, if you will, right? The traditional banking system, anybody that would sort of be disrupted by this new technology, well, of course, I mean, they're going to put up a fight because technically it's threatening their rice bowl. But that, just even that thinking is kind of old school.
And I'm kind of new to the whole thing. So maybe from a perspective of someone just, what is crypto, you know, like, what is crypto? How do you get involved on the platform? And how would you explain it in a simple Dr. Seuss way?
Well, so Dr. Seuss way is basically, you know, the best way I could describe it is like there's the money that we're used to is ruled by an invisible force of God.
Yep.
And that invisible force, you know, it's on our dollar bills. You know, it's the thing that says, hey, you know, this is a piece of paper. It's imbued with these special magical powers, and it's backed by the government. And if you don't believe that, it's backed by God. That's the essence of it, right? And basically, cryptocurrency said, hey, you know, we're going to do away with that mythology, and we're just going to tell you the truth, which is that cryptocurrency is actually backed by, I mean, that all currencies are actually backed by technology. That your faith shouldn't be in God, it should be in the data that is behind the security of the thing that you are believing in, right? So a centralized government right now controls, I mean, that's basically how money is done, except for this revolution of cryptocurrency. But basically right now, the form is there's a government, there's a currency of that government, and that currency is protected by the government.
Yeah.
So it keeps you safe. And that's it, right? I mean, so there's a whole bunch of mythologies about how dangerous everything is, but unless you put it in a bank, it's protected by a federal government. And that's the world we're currently living in, right? So now you get to this innovation, which says, hey, you know what? You don't need the invisible man, and you don't need this magical, you know, guns and bombs, traditional enforcement and protection of a currency. In fact, you and I are little meat sacks that you and I are. We can protect each other with our technology. I can hold the blockchain or a piece of the blockchain. We can each verify each other reputation-wise. So, you know, one of the reasons you were able to get to me, for example, originally after you read the book is you're like, oh, well, I know this person who recommended me. And so you were vetted, right? So we can start vetting each other.
Right.
And we can say, oh, yeah, I know this person. I know their reputation. I know who they are, who they stand for. That's what's so exciting.
Yeah, I was actually referred to your book by somebody else. And then I think
exactly.
I wrote that. And yeah.
Yeah. And that's how this works.
How many people never look outside of what's presented to them?
You know, I mean, most people, right? Because it takes work to think outside of the box.
Yeah.
So basically, crypto is just basically saying, you be your own bank, I'll be my own bank, we'll be autonomous, we will protect our own currencies, we'll support each other to keep each other safe, and we'll spend as we want to spend, the ways we want to spend it. And of course, you know, that's threatening if you believe that the world is a very scary, dangerous place, which I personally don't. I think, I think people are pretty much, I've traveled all over the world. People are pretty much just, they want to improve the lives of their families. They want to keep themselves safe. They want clean water. We're people.
Everywhere.
Yeah, it's just like, it's not that complicated, but we have these belief systems, which has complicated everything, right? It's not what we want. We all want the same thing, the same things. Like at the end of the day, you just want to know you're going to be safe, and you want to be able to think freely. Like that is one thing that seems to be part of what it is to be a human, a person. Is there is a certain degree of freedom that many of us want, but not everybody, which is fine, right? So if you have all these, the needs are kind of identical, but it's all this crazy stuff that we believe that really complicates the situation. And that is everything from, sex and money and religion, all the things. And that's really where we get into trouble. And so, crypto has a way of us sort of seeing through the belief systems potentially. Like we can all believe in the common religion of Bitcoin, let's say.
Right.
And that's a global religion. And, you could be like, yeah, but, blah, 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 whatever, but that's all sort of cultural, local belief systems. And then we're back in just warring. But if we have a cross-border currency and we can travel freely all over the world, and eventually we'll have, verified reputations on the blockchain, which is the blockchain is the technology that Bitcoin rests on. It's essentially a ledger. It's like a global ledger, just, an entry point. It says, yes, you have this much crypto and whatever. You spent this much, and here's how you spent it, and here's, it's just a ledger. But it's a ledger that's encased in a kind of amber. It's like encased in something that you can't really change. Like once it's in there, once that entry is made, you can't really change it. And that's really the beautiful thing of this. So we can trust the technology, we can trust the amber of the ledger, and we can trust each other to verify each other. And suddenly we have a global community. Right. That's the revolution that I'm hoping we see. Now, are there criminals in the space? Are there bad actors in the space? Yeah, of course, man. But I mean, that's literally every second of every moment of your life. There is, for lack of a better word, a criminal element who goes like, I'm not going to abide by social rules. I just want to get what I can get to protect my family and give myself clean water and give myself safe space. And then that's the paradox. We all want the same thing. Right. But how we go about getting that, but that's everything. And the federal government right now is like, oh my God, bad people, dangerous people, too much money, too fast, too this, too that. You're too stupid to know how to take care of your own money. And I think that's bullshit, to be honest with you. I think we're capable, but we have to learn and we have to teach each other. Like you're asking me, and I can share this knowledge, and then you can share that. You can go like, oh, wait a minute, I get it. So one currency, the dollar, is enforced by guns and bombs and armies and authorities. And the other thing is just us taking care of each other in a decentralized way. No one person controls it, no one entity. That's it. That's the big aha. How do we do that? Technology. Right. Okay, cool. Are you adults enough to handle your own money? I mean, maybe not in the beginning, but you'll learn. And empowered, there is nothing more empowering to you than people learning how to handle and manage their money. Because I've been in this world of new age, of self-help for 30 plus years. And there are two things that everybody comes to me with, right? Number one, money, right? I need more money. I need this. I'm struggling with money. I literally spent like the most common discussion I had my entire career as a quote unquote healer was, do you have payment options? Can I pay you? Right? Because if you're focusing all on internal, then you're not focusing on money, then you're just spending your whole life struggling. And so many people I know lived and died in poverty.
Right.
So one of the spiritual acts that you and I can do is take control of our money.
Right.
Learn how that works, because that's part of being in this physical world. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. And so all the platform I'm creating, everything I'm creating, our team is creating, we're working, we have a beautiful team brought, they're coming together to support this idea. And they're coming together because it's a vision of what's possible.
Yeah. And
that's exciting. I mean, it is super, super exciting.
And is there, I mean, besides that, when is the Token AI going to open up, and how can people learn about it? If you were to, direct them? And
well, right now the thing to do would be to just, join our Slack channel, go to our website, TokenAI.io, TokenAI.io. We'll kind of keep things going there. The space moves very fast. So tentatively, we're looking at doing some sort of token generation event around November, somewhere in the November range, November to December, depending.
Yep.
But again, there's a lot of things I want to get in place first.
Yep.
And a lot of it is really spreading the word about what's going on in the space, what's possible. So, I completely invite people to just stay tuned and come play in this revolution, because we all need to learn and have autonomy, the power in our hands to move, control, work with, embrace, share, spend, gift our own monies. And without having to talk to daddy every step of the way.
Right. What else would you like to share about maybe what's gone on with you and, your journey over the last year or two?
Man, my journey is really about how do I help lift people out of their belief systems. And, honestly, Token AI is just one aspect of that. But it's really like, I just feel like we, in a way, that there's this fight going on right now, and it's like a fight of, it's a fight of like, are you in control of your mind and your body, or is somebody else? And I just feel like that's it, and that seems to be like the global thing. And I just really am committed to helping people just design their lives the way they want to live with more happiness and more pleasure and more freedom and more safety. That's it, man. I mean, in one way, like, I've tried a lot of stuff, that I've been doing, but it's all to the same end, which is the best format to help people become more empowered. And that's what my life has been about. And you just have been watching the various, ways in which I've been doing that, from, everything. Meeting.
Yeah, because I mean, you have a background in energy and healing and tantra and thought leadership, and you've spoken at some really big events. You've written a lot of books. I mean, that was one thing that intrigued me when I read your book, because if you don't ever read about anything or question anything, and then all of a sudden you read a book and you're like, wait a second, nobody taught this to me in school, to question.
Oh.
And it goes like generation after generation after generation after generation. It reminds me of this joke that I always tell people. It's kind of corny. It was about Thanksgiving, and this girl asked her mom, like, why do you cut off the end of the turkey?
Oh yeah. That's a great story.
And she said, well, that was the recipe. That's how my mom did it. And then she went and talked to the grandmom, and the grandmom's like, well, why did you cut it off? And she's like, well, that's how my mom did it. And then finally she talked to the great grandmom, and she's like, well, why did you cut off the end of the turkey? And they're like, because it wouldn't fit in the pan that we had.
Yeah.
So she made up the fact that it was part of the recipe. And then that got passed on down from generation to generation. And I think I read that I have this book called Virus of the Mind.
Yeah.
And it talks about healing your DNA and how our beliefs and our thoughts get passed down.
That's it, man.
And we may not be completely conscious of it, but just the fact that it's in us, that energy, and we have kids, subconsciously it is being passed on. So like I have a daughter who's 8 years old, and it's, you know, it's no joke that things show up in her that are part of me and part of my wife.
Absolutely.
And they go, well, how did she come up with that? Well, she must, it must have come from somewhere. But what do we watch on TV every day? I mean, people are plugged in. When you talked about somebody getting crypto or getting what you're talking about, I think of in a current day that everybody has right now, if you're not careful, it's kind of like boom, boom, boom. Like you got 100 knocks on your head. How can you even think when you're getting knocked on the head 100 times a day from a bunch of stuff?
Yeah.
And that's the art of being in control of kind of what you're creating.
Right. That's it, man. That's it. It's a crazy thing. It is a crazy freaking world when it comes to that. Like, this is one of the reasons why people have come to me over the years, because they're like, I just don't want to pass this on to me. But here we are. You know, that's the challenge, man. That is the challenge. So
right.
It's fascinating. It is fascinating. So, you know, so we have a job to do, and I'm really glad, you know, it's sharing ideas like we're doing right here, right now. And I really appreciate you reaching out for that reason, because we share ideas. It's an enlightening of the mind. You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
But once you know, you know. And that's what we're doing.
Yep. Are you working on any other books or anything, or?
I'm doing a version. I want to actually, I want to gift, and I should probably, share this idea. But basically, I want to gift A Course in Freedom. So I'm doing a rewrite on that.
Oh, cool.
I want to be able to just gift that to people, because I think that's an idea. Those are ideas that, at the very least, you need to have in your brain.
Yep.
And so that's my goal. My goal is to kind of just share that, and so I'm doing a rewrite, you know, real concise and precise, and then just, you know, give them to people, just gift them.
Yeah, plant a seed.
Yeah, just plant the seed. I mean, you know, some people. I always tell people, like, my book is probably the most likely to end up on the back of the toilet seat, because It's just, you know, it's a lot, and so you just kind of want to like thumb through it every once in a while, you know.
Right.
And so I'd like the small version, so you could just carry it, and with that, learn to have the more difficult discussions that there are in the world, because there are lots of challenging discussions we ultimately need to have, and you know, and those are fun. They're awesome.
Right.
But they're also challenging, right? So that's so my goal is to just do more of that, and have those difficult conversations, and really continuing to upgrade the quality of life that we're living. So
yeah, when I read your book, I remember a thought that I had. There's 7 billion people in the world.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're here in the United States. There's a lot of other people outside the United States that, you know, that I think have patterns and beliefs. And when you tell me about the crypto, it reminds me of a book that I read one time called The World is Flat.
Yeah.
And I think it's about everybody getting on the same page, like a collective consciousness within like a system that has some integrity.
Mm-hmm.
Where people can get on the same page and nothing changes. You know, it's not like we're, you know, like, you look at the dollar right now. I mean, if you were to just go back 50 years, I mean, like these days for $20, you don't get anything. And that's just what it is. You know what I mean? It's like even living in Los Angeles. You know, I grew up in Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
different part of the country,
Mhm.
but you know, here in LA, you're lucky to get a mailbox and 1,000 square feet for $1 million.
Oh yeah. I mean,
And you could go to somewhere like I've been to India and Nepal for like a month,
yeah.
where I had like a driver, you know, for a couple $100 for the whole month.
Mhm.
Like drive us around and take a load off and enjoy meeting different people from different cultures. And
Yes.
I think there's definitely there's a lot of awakening. I think that, or maybe defragmenting our mind so we
Mhm.
can get back to the core of like our inner child and inner fun. And
I agree, man.
so,
Totally agree. Well, it's so good to share these ideas. So I really appreciate it.
yeah, no, it's good to have you on. I mean, is there anything else you want to share? I mean,
I just feel like, I mean, I really
you look
feel like,
good. You look like you're 10 years younger.
ah, nice.
Yeah. Um, anything people should look for in the future that you're working on? Any events or?
Well, no, right now, just, you know, stay tuned for TokenAI. I think that is by far, hands down, the most interesting thing happening right now. I just think it's exciting. It's revolutionary. Um, and that's my goal, right? I want to,
No, you're passionate about it. I
I'm
mean, that's,
passionate. I want to change the world with it. And that's my focus, because I feel like that's the one place where I can help people, you know, most directly. And then all these other things that I've been trying to do on the outskirts for so long, I think they come naturally from there.
yeah.
So,
Well, I want to thank you for taking the time out. I also want to thank you for like being open. I mean, like I reached out to you, I read your book, we met up, we've talked a couple times,
yeah, yeah.
and you've been there, you know, like as a friend, and you've given me some insights, maybe some things I should maybe shed from what I think.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I'm really grateful for the fact that you've done that. I mean, obviously you're out to make an impact in the world, and you've worked with thousands of people all over the world.
I have.
I mean, you've done some amazing things, probably more than we even know.
Yeah, you know, and
But I just want to acknowledge you and say thank you.
hey, my pleasure, man. Thank you.
Yeah,
My pleasure. I
because
appreciate it.
it takes someone with a heart and someone that wants to make a difference to do
Yes,
that. There's
yes.
a lot of people out there that wouldn't give somebody 5 minutes, you know, in the world that we live in.
Yeah, but that 5 minutes can be the thing that changes somebody's entire existence.
Yeah.
And I do recognize that. So, you know, maybe it's that conversation, maybe somebody's listening to this today and they're just like, oh, whoa, you know, and they see the world a little bit differently. That's all we can do, man. Little nudges. I'm all into nudges.
Right.
So